You have two choices, I told him. Sit down or bleed on my clean floor. The man in the black suit stared at me as rainwater slipped from his shoulders and tapped against the faded tile. Behind him, two men stood beneath the clinic's flickering entrance light, their expressions hard enough to silence an entire room. Mine was already silent. The last patient had left 20 minutes earlier. The coffee beside my keyboard had gone cold. Outside, thunder rolled over Queens, and the storm pressed against the windows like it wanted to come inside. I should have been afraid. Any reasonable woman alone after midnight would have been. But fear had never helped me treat a patient. Close the door, I said. One of the men stepped forward. Miss, you will help him now. I looked at the stranger's pale face, then at the hand pressed against his side. A dark stain had spread across the white shirt beneath his jacket, but he remained upright, controlled, almost calm. I am helping him, I replied. You are wasting his time. The stranger's eyes settled on me. Gray, cold, watchful. They were the eyes of a man accustomed to obedience. Leave us, he said. His voice was quiet, yet both men moved immediately. The door shut behind them, locking the storm outside and leaving me alone with someone who looked like he had never entered a room without owning it. Sit, I ordered. He lowered himself onto the examination table without looking away from me. I washed my hands, pulled on gloves, and reached for the medical supplies. Name? Is that necessary? It is if you want me to stop calling you the man ruining my floor. Something almost changed in his expression. Not a smile. Men like him probably did not smile often. Adriano, he said. Elena, I answered. Now remove the jacket. He studied me for another second, then obeyed. The suit was expensive. The watch was more expensive. Everything about him belonged to a world where money opened doors and silence closed them. Beneath the fabric, I found a deep graze along his side. It had missed anything vital, but it had bled enough to leave his skin cold and his pulse too fast. Power could hide many things. It could not hide blood. Loss. You need a hospital, I said as I cleaned the injury. Hospitals ask questions. So do I. You have not asked the right one. I glanced up. And what would that be? His gaze moved across my face as if searching for something he could not find. Why are you not afraid of me? The question hung between us while rain struck the glass in silver waves. I secured the bandage, removed my gloves, and met his eyes. Because right now, Adriano, you are not the most dangerous man in New York. His expression sharpened. What am I? A patient who waited too long to ask for help. For the first time, the silence around him changed. It no longer felt like a warning. It felt like surprise. Then headlights swept across the clinic windows, and the two men outside turned toward the street. Adriano did not look away from me. Lock the door, he said. Why? His voice dropped lower. Because the people who followed me were not supposed to find this place. For 1 second, I thought he was testing me. Then one of the men outside glanced back through the rain-streaked glass and gave a single, urgent nod. That was enough. I crossed the room, turned the deadbolt, and switched off the front lights. The clinic fell into shadow except for the small lamp above the examination table. Adriano remained seated, one hand resting near the fresh bandage at his side, his breathing measured but too shallow. Backroom, I said. Now. His eyes narrowed. You give orders easily. Only when people are too stubborn to protect themselves. I opened the supply closet behind the treatment area and pushed aside a rolling cart. It was not much of a hiding place, but the rear hallway led to an employee exit, and the windows there faced an alley instead of the street. Adriano stood, slower this time. The movement cost him more than he wanted me to notice. I noticed anyway. Lean on me, I said. I can walk. Then prove it quietly. He took 1 step, paused, and finally let his weight shift just enough for my shoulder to steady him. He was taller than I had realized, at least 6 feet 2 inches, and even weakened, he carried the kind of presence that changed the temperature of a room. I guided him down the narrow hall while rain rattled the old air conditioning unit above us. Behind the clinic door, a car engine idled. Another set of headlights moved across the blinds. Adriano stopped. Your staff, he asked. I work alone on Wednesdays. Family nearby? No, the answer came too quickly. He heard the lie inside the truth, but he did not challenge it. Instead, he looked toward the front of the clinic with a stillness that felt practiced. They will leave if they think I did. And if they do not, then my men will handle the conversation. His tone was calm, almost polite, but I heard the world behind it. A world built on coded messages, locked doors, and consequences no one discussed in daylight. I opened the rear exit and checked the alley. Empty. Wet brick. A rusted fire escape. My old Honda beneath a broken security light. "You are getting into my car," I said. Adriano looked at the faded blue paint and then at me. "That vehicle is older than some of my employees. It also starts most of the time." Something flickered in his eyes again. That almost smile. "You are serious." "Completely." A soft knock sounded at the front entrance. 3 taps. A pause. Then 2 more. Adriano went still. "That is not my man." My pulse finally betrayed me, beating hard against my ribs. I reached into my coat pocket for my keys. "Then we should go." He studied my face. "Now you are afraid." "Yes," I whispered. "I am just not letting it make the decisions." For the first time since he entered my clinic, Adriano looked at me without calculation. Not like a witness. Not like a liability. Like I had surprised him. We crossed the alley, and I unlocked the passenger door. He lowered himself inside, his expensive suit disappearing into the cracked vinyl seat of a car worth less than his watch. I moved around the hood, rain soaking through my sweater in seconds. Before I could reach the driver's side, the clinic lights came on behind us. Adriano opened his door again. "Elena." "What?" "Get in." The voice was no longer cold. It was protective, urgent, personal. I slid behind the wheel and turned the key. The engine coughed once, twice, then started. As I pulled away from the curb, Adriano looked back at the clinic shrinking in the mirror. "You should not have helped me," he said. I tightened my hands around the steering wheel. "That is a strange thing to say after letting me save your life." His gaze shifted to me, unreadable in the passing streetlights. "You do not understand. Helping me changes things." "For whom?" The answer came quietly. "For you." The city blurred past my windshield in ribbons of rain and yellow light, while Adriano watched the rearview mirror with the focus of a man counting threats. "Turn left at the next light," he said. "I am driving to the nearest emergency room." "No hospitals." "Then you can explain why my passenger is losing color by the minute." His jaw tightened, but he pointed toward a narrow street lined with closed storefronts. "There is a townhouse 3 blocks ahead. Green door. Number 42. Is it safe?" "Safer than your clinic." The words landed harder than he intended. I pictured the small waiting room, the children's drawings taped beside the front desk, and the jar of lollipops I kept for nervous patients. That place was not valuable to anyone else. To me, it was everything. "Who were those people?" I asked. "Not tonight. They came to my workplace." "That makes it tonight." Adriano turned toward me. The streetlights moved across his face, revealing exhaustion beneath the control. "Someone inside my organization gave away my location. I went to your clinic because it was the first open door I saw." "So this was an accident?" "I do not believe in accidents." "That sounds exhausting." His gaze stayed on me for a moment. "It is." The honesty in that single word surprised me more than any threat could have. I stopped in front of the townhouse. It looked ordinary, with brick walls, narrow windows, and a brass porch light glowing above the green door. 2 black vehicles arrived seconds later. Adriano's men stepped out, scanning the street before one of them opened my passenger door. "Careful," I said. The man looked at me as though no one had ever given him instructions before. Adriano raised one hand. "She comes inside." "I am not staying," I replied. "Your car was seen leaving the clinic." "Then I will drive home." "That would lead them to your apartment." My fingers tightened around the steering wheel. He knew where I lived. The realization must have shown on my face because his voice softened. "My people checked after you gave me your name. You investigated me while I was saving your life. I made sure you were not connected to the people following me." That is not reassuring. It was not meant to be. I stepped out into the rain, anger warming me better than my soaked sweater could. Inside, the townhouse was quiet and immaculate, more like a private medical office than a home. A woman in navy scrubs entered carrying a medical bag. Adriano tried to stop her with a glance, but I stepped aside. "Let her examine you." "You already did." "I work in physical rehabilitation." "She has equipment I do not." The woman carefully checked his blood pressure, examined the wound, and started intravenous fluids. After several minutes, she looked at me. "The injury is painful, but it is a clean graze. No sign of internal damage. He lost enough blood to make him weak, but the fluids should stabilize him." Adriano looked almost offended by the assessment. I am in the room. Then listen carefully, I said. Color slowly returned to his face as the fluids ran. One of his men entered and whispered something near the doorway. Adriano's expression became still. What happened? I asked. He looked at me for a long moment. Someone broke into your clinic after we left. My breath caught. Was anyone hurt? No one was there. Relief came first. Then anger. Sharp. Clean. I need to go back. No, that was not a request. Adriano began to stand, but the woman in scrubs pressed a hand toward his shoulder. You are not going anywhere until the fluids finish. I faced him across the room, rainwater dripping from my sleeves onto his polished floor. You do not get to control me because danger followed you through my door. His gray eyes held mine. No, Elena. I get to protect you because you refuse to close it. Protection without permission is still control, I said. Adriano did not answer immediately. The room seemed to shrink around us, filled with the soft hum of hidden ventilation and the rain tapping against the townhouse windows. His men waited beyond the doorway, silent as shadows, but his attention never left my face. You think I do not know the difference? He asked. I think men like you stop noticing it. Something moved behind his eyes. Not anger. Something quieter. More dangerous because it looked like truth. He reached for the back of a chair, steadying himself even though the fluids had restored some of his color. I stepped forward by instinct, then stopped before touching him. Sit down. You were just explaining that I cannot give orders. Medical instructions are different. Convenient. Sit. This time he obeyed. The reaction from his men told me that was more shocking than anything I had said. The woman in navy scrubs checked the intravenous line. He needs rest after this. No alcohol. No unnecessary movement. If his temperature rises or the bleeding returns, he goes to a hospital whether he approves or not. Adriano looked almost offended. I am still in the room. Then you heard her, I said. One of his men entered carrying my purse, which I had left in the car. He placed it on the table and handed Adriano a phone. The clinic cameras were disabled, he said. Nothing appears to be missing. Appearances are rarely reliable, Adriano replied. His voice had changed. The injured man was gone. The ruler had returned. Replace the locks. Put 2 people nearby until morning. No one enters without Elena's approval. I stared at him. You cannot station guards at my clinic. I can station pedestrians across the street. Armed pedestrians? The man by the door looked down, hiding what might have been amusement. Adriano leaned back, his face composed. You are difficult. You met me less than an hour ago. It was enough. My phone buzzed inside my purse. 3 missed calls from my landlord. A message followed. Elena, there are police outside the building. Call me when you are safe. My stomach tightened. I showed the screen to Adriano. This is already spreading. He read the message, then gave the phone back. Your landlord will be told there was a break-in. Nothing more. You cannot erase the night. No, he said quietly, but I can keep it from swallowing your life. For the first time, his certainty did not sound arrogant. It sounded tired. I looked at the man everyone obeyed and saw the cost of being responsible for every locked door, every whispered warning, every person who depended on him to remain unshaken. Why did you walk into my clinic first? I asked. The question caught him off guard. You knew someone had betrayed you, yet you entered before your men. His gaze shifted toward the dark window. Because if the danger was waiting inside, it would reach me before them. The answer settled heavily between us. He protected people by standing where the damage would arrive first. It was noble in the worst possible way. That is not leadership, I said. That is punishment. His eyes returned to mine. For what? You tell me. Silence followed. Long enough for the rain to soften. Long enough for his expression to lose its armor. Then he looked at the silver bird pendant resting against my sweater. Your necklace, he said. Where did you get it? My hand rose to it automatically. My mother. Adriano went completely still. What was her name? Before I could answer, the lights in the townhouse went out. Darkness swallowed the room before I could answer. A chair scraped against the floor. Someone near the doorway spoke into a radio, but Adriano's voice cut through every sound. No one moves until we know why the power failed. Calm. Controlled. Almost cold. I reached into my purse and turned on my phone flashlight. The narrow beam found Adriano still seated, one hand gripping the edge of the chair. The storm probably took out the block, I said. The emergency system should have activated, the woman in navy scrubs replied. It had not. The silence that followed felt heavier than the darkness. One of Adriano's men crossed to the window and looked through the blinds. The buildings across the street still have power. Adriano started to rise. Move Elena downstairs. I am not going anywhere until you stay seated. Every face turned toward me. This is not the time to argue, he said. Then stop making bad medical decisions. I stepped closer and pressed 2 fingers to his wrist. His pulse was elevated, but steadier than before. You are not protecting anyone if you reopen the wound halfway to the stairs. His gaze held mine, sharp and unreadable. Then he sat. No protest, no threat, just obedience. A voice called from the hallway. The backup system received a remote shutdown command. Someone used an old maintenance credential. Adriano's expression hardened. Can they enter the building? No. The credential only reached the electrical controls. We have already blocked it. The lights remained off, but the explanation made the darkness feel less impossible. It was not an invasion. It was a warning. Someone wanted Adriano to know they could still reach the edges of his world. Secure the exits, he said. No one approaches the clinic or Elena's apartment. I lowered the phone. You already know where I live. Now you are giving orders about it. Is there anything else you investigated? Your work history. Your landlord. Your emergency contact. I do not have an emergency contact. His eyes shifted to the silver bird pendant at my throat. That is what concerned me. My hand closed around it. Why? Your mother's name. The question returned, quieter this time. More personal. The darkness seemed to pull the rest of the room away until there was only his face in the white glow of my phone. Marisol Reyes, I said. Adriano stopped breathing for one long second. I saw it happen. The name reached somewhere inside him that even pain had not touched. You knew her, I whispered. He looked toward his men. Leave us. No one moved. Now, the room emptied with silent efficiency, including the woman in scrubs. The door closed. Adriano and I were alone again, just as we had been in the clinic, except the balance had changed. I was no longer treating a stranger. I was standing in front of a man who knew something about the mother I had buried 15 years ago. How? I asked. Adriano looked at the pendant between my fingers. I remember that necklace from the night your mother saved my sister. The words struck harder than thunder. My mother worked at a grocery store. That was the life she built after she escaped the one she had before. Do not speak about her as if you knew her better than I did. I do not. His voice softened. But I knew what she ran from. I took a step back. What life? The lights returned. Every lamp flashed on at once, revealing exhaustion in his face and something I had not seen before. Fear. Not for himself. For me. Adriano rose carefully. Elena, the people who followed me tonight may not have come because of my business. Then why did they come? His eyes dropped to the silver bird. Because someone finally realized Marisol Reyes had a daughter. The room seemed to tilt beneath me, but I refused to let Adriano see it. My mother was a cashier who worked double shifts and packed my lunches in paper bags, I said. She was not part of your world. She wanted you outside it, he replied. That is not the same thing. I searched his face for deception and found something worse. Memory. He moved toward a locked cabinet near the fireplace, entered a code, and removed a thin leather folder. His hands were steady now, but his eyes were not. He placed the folder on the table between us. 27 years ago, before you were born, my sister Sophia discovered records tied to a charitable foundation. The people behind it believed she had copied their evidence. She escaped them and hid behind the grocery store where your mother worked evenings. I looked down at the folder but did not touch it. My mother would have called the police. She did more than that. She hid Sophia, contacted my father, and refused payment afterward. Why? Because she said kindness that comes with a price is only another kind of debt. The words sounded like my mother. I remembered her saying something similar when I was 9, after she gave our last $20 to a neighbor whose heat had been shut off. My chest tightened. You remember that night? I was 7. My father brought me when he came for Sophia. He did not trust anyone else to watch me. Adriano opened the folder. Inside was an old photograph of 2 women standing beside a brick wall. One was young, dark-haired, and visibly pregnant beneath her coat. My mother, the other woman, held the silver bird necklace in her hand. Sophia gave it to Marisol, Adriano said. It belonged to our mother. I lifted my pendant, suddenly aware of its weight. Why would she give away something that important? Because Marisol protected her without asking who she was. I finally looked at him. What happened after that? Adriano's expression closed. Before she took the grocery store job, your mother had worked as an accountant for the same foundation. She discovered that community programs were being used to hide stolen money and illegal influence. She copied the records and planned to testify. Then someone warned the people responsible. Yes, your mother was already pregnant with you. My father helped her create a new identity and disappear. Reyes was not her name. Not originally. Every memory of my childhood suddenly carried a shadow I had never noticed. The curtains my mother kept closed. The way she changed grocery stores without explanation. The night she made me promise never to remove the necklace. What was her real name? I asked. Adriano hesitated. That hesitation frightened me more than the answer. Marisol Vega. I had seen the name once in archived articles about a corruption case that disappeared from the headlines after several witnesses withdrew. My mother had been named as a suspected participant before the investigation quietly collapsed. She was blamed, Adriano said, reading the horror on my face. But she was trying to expose the people responsible. How do you know? Because my father helped her collect the evidence. A knock sounded at the door. One of Adriano's men entered, holding a phone. We found something at the clinic. Adriano took it, listened, then looked at me. What? I demanded. He ended the call. The person who entered did not take anything. Then what did they want? His gaze dropped to my necklace. They left a message. My mouth went dry. What did it say? Adriano's voice became almost a whisper. Tell Marisol's daughter that the past is ready to collect. The message should have frightened me into silence. Instead, it made something inside me go still. Take me back to the clinic, I said. Adriano's expression hardened. No, they entered my building. They left a message for me. I need to see it. You need to stay where I can protect you. That sentence is exactly why I should leave. I reached for my purse, but he stepped between me and the door. He did not touch me. He did not need to. His presence filled the space like a locked gate. Elena, they know your name, your workplace, and your connection to Marisol. Walking back into that clinic would give them what they want, and hiding here gives them control over my life. His jaw tightened. This is not about control. It always becomes control with men who believe fear gives them permission. The words landed. I saw them reach him. Behind the cold authority, something shifted, then closed again. You do not understand what these people are capable of. Then explain it. He looked toward the leather folder on the table. Your mother copied records proving that the foundation was used to move stolen money through community programs. Someone inside the investigation warned the people responsible before she could testify. So she ran. She ran because she was pregnant with you. I touched the silver bird pendant. The metal felt colder than before. My mother told me never to take this off. She said it was the only thing that could prove who I was. Adriano crossed the room and stopped a careful distance away. May I see it? It was the first time he had asked permission. That mattered more than I wanted it to. I removed the chain and placed it in his palm. His fingers closed around the bird, then turned it beneath the light. A tiny line ran along one wing, almost invisible after years of wear. Adriano pressed the edge with his thumbnail. The pendant opened. Inside was a narrow strip of metal no larger than a matchstick. Numbers had been etched across its surface. An access code, he said. To what? A private storage compartment. He looked at me with a mixture of relief and dread. Your mother kept the evidence. The room fell silent. Every unanswered question from my childhood gathered around me. Why we moved 3 times in 5 years. Why my mother never allowed photographs near the windows. Why she cried when she thought I was asleep. She knew this day might come. I whispered. She prepared you for it, Adriano said. No. She left me alone with it. My voice broke on the final word, and I hated that it did. Adriano did not tell me to be strong. He did not offer empty comfort. He simply placed the necklace back into my hand. You are not alone now. I looked up at him. Because you owe my mother? At first, perhaps. His answer came slowly. But your mother is not the only reason now. Before I could ask what that meant, his phone vibrated. He read the message, and the last trace of warmth disappeared from his face. What happened? I asked. Adriano turned the screen toward me. It showed a photograph of my apartment door, taken only minutes earlier. Beneath it were 5 words. Bring us what Marisol hid. The photograph of my apartment door turned the room colder than the storm outside. I stared at the brass number above the frame, the faded welcome mat, and the small scratch near the lock where I had dropped my keys last winter. Ordinary details. Private details. Proof that someone had been close enough to touch the life I thought belonged only to me. Is anyone inside? I asked. Adriano was already typing a message. My people are checking. My landlord lives upstairs. They will reach him first. I stepped toward the door. Then I am going with them. No, his answer came too quickly, too naturally. I turned on him. Do not start that again. This is not a debate. Everything about my life is a debate now. I held up the pendant. My mother left me access to evidence I did not know existed. Strangers entered my clinic. Someone is watching my home. And you still think the safest thing is to keep making decisions without me. Adriano looked at me for a long moment. The anger in his face did not disappear. It changed direction. Away from me. Toward himself. What would you do? He asked. The question surprised me. First, I would confirm my landlord is safe. Then I would find out what this code opens. And after that, I decide what happens to the evidence. His jaw tightened. That decision could affect people far beyond you. Then they can ask me, not command me. Silence stretched between us. Finally, Adriano lifted his phone. The building is clear. Your landlord is visiting his daughter in New Jersey. No one is inside. Relief weakened my knees for half a second, but I stayed standing. The photograph was a warning, I said. Yes. Then hiding will only invite another one. Adriano walked to the window. The rain had softened to a silver mist, turning the streetlights into pale halos. There is a private archive beneath an old bank in Lower Manhattan, he said. My father stored documents there that were too sensitive to keep electronically. The numbers inside your pendant may correspond to one of his compartments. How far? About 8 miles. Then we go now. He turned. You have not slept. You are soaked. You have been threatened twice in one night. And you are injured. The fluids worked. The doctor said I could make a short trip if the wound remained stable. That is not the same as being well. It is the closest thing to permission I am likely to receive tonight. His almost smile appeared, faint and unwilling. Before I could answer, the woman in navy scrubs entered carrying a dry coat. She handed it to me, then checked Adriano's bandage one final time. No new bleeding, she said. Keep the trip short. Adriano removed his signet ring and placed it on the table. The archive requires a registered Moretti representative, a personal identification code, and confirmation from the archivist. The seal on this ring will verify that the authorization came from me. I picked it up. It was heavier than it looked. You are trusting me with this? I am trusting you with more than that. His voice had lost its command. For the first time, it sounded almost vulnerable. We left through a rear garage where a black sedan waited with the engine running. The driver placed our phones inside a signal blocking case before pulling away. 20 minutes later, beneath the sleeping city, an archivist verified Adriano's identity, examined the seal, and entered the code hidden inside my pendant. A steel compartment opened with a soft mechanical click. Inside was a single envelope addressed. In my mother's handwriting. Elena, if you are reading this, trust the man who remembers the bird. The envelope trembled between my fingers, even though the underground archive was warm. My mother's handwriting had not changed in my memory. The same narrow letters. The same careful spacing. The same way she pressed too hard whenever she crossed a letter T, as if even ink needed certainty. Adriano stood beside me without speaking. For once, he did not tell me what to do. I opened the envelope. Inside was a letter, a small photograph, and a sealed flash drive wrapped in wax paper. I unfolded the letter first. My dearest Elena, if you are reading this, then the life I built around you has finally collided with the life I tried to leave behind. I am sorry. I told myself silence would protect you, but silence also creates shadows, and shadows grow larger when no one names them. The man beside you may call himself Adriano Moretti now. When I knew him, he was only a frightened 7-year-old boy standing in the rain, trying to be brave for his sister. Trust him if he still remembers the bird. He looked at the pendant before he looked at your face. That means he remembers what mercy cost us. I stopped reading. The archive lights hummed above us. Adriano stared at the floor, his expression unreadable. You were there, I said. The night she helped Sophia. Yes. His voice was quieter than I had ever heard it. You were 7. My father brought me when he came for my sister. He thought keeping me close was safer than leaving me with someone he could not trust. He looked at me then. Your mother knelt in the rain, wrapped her coat around Sophia, and told me that being frightened did not make me weak. I remembered her face. I remembered the bird. I returned to the letter. The records on the drive proved that the foundation was controlled by people who used charity to hide theft, influence, and bribery. Some of those people are still respected today. Some may be close to Adriano. Do not give the files to anyone until you know who warned them about me. The betrayal came from inside the Moretti circle. My breath caught. I read the sentence again. Adriano saw the change in my face. What does it say? I folded the letter halfway. That someone close to your family betrayed her. He did not react immediately, but the stillness around him sharpened. Who? She did not know. I held up the flash drive. She thought the answer was here. Adriano reached for it, then stopped before his fingers touched mine. May I? That small question mattered. I placed the drive in his palm. We looked together. Agreed. A mechanical click echoed from beyond the compartment room. The security light above the entrance changed from green to red. Adriano turned toward it. That should not happen while a client compartment is open. I slipped the letter into my coat. Did someone follow us? Our phones were sealed. The vehicle changed routes twice, and no one followed us through the garage. Another lock engaged beyond the door. Adriano looked toward the security camera in the corner. The only way they could know we were here is through the archive's internal alert system. Someone inside this building? Or someone with access to its security network? The lights dimmed. Somewhere deeper in the archive, metal doors began closing one after another. Adriano moved in front of me, not touching me, but placing himself between me and the sealed doorway. Stay behind me. I thought we agreed to stop giving orders. We did. He glanced back, and despite the danger, something almost warm passed through his eyes. Consider this a request. A speaker above us crackled to life. A distorted voice filled the chamber. Leave the drive, Elena, and you both walk out. Adriano looked at me. I looked at the letter hidden beneath my coat. Then I closed my hand around the silver bird at my throat. My mother gave up her name and spent the rest of her life protecting this truth. I said, I am not leaving it in the dark.